RAD Radio presents the RAD pROBcast.
Guest this week is Chef Q of Q1227 restaurant in Roseville, California, a place that my wife and I kind of stumbled into accidentally months ago and immediately fell in love with it and the vibe. So let's start with, if I understand this correctly, 1227, that's your birthday.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
The Q is, you go by Chef Q, but I don't know your name. I don't know if anybody knows your name. I can't crack this mystery.
I think a few people know. My government name my government name is Quentin.
Okay. But everybody calls you Q.
Everybody calls me Q.
Even the wife.
Even the wife. Well, sometimes she calls me other stuff, when it depends on how she is.
Understood. Married man myself, as you know. So Q1227.
Yes.
I want to start with this. We have an ongoing conversation on the RAD Show because I don't know how much you know about our background, but we've actually published 5 cookbooks.
Oh wow.
And I fancy myself a cook, but over the years, people have gotten offended when we would do videos or whatever, and I would wear a chef's coat, or I would call myself Chef Rob, because there's this thing in the culinary community that you're only a chef if you went to culinary school. Now, you call yourself Chef Q.
Yeah.
Did you go to culinary school?
I did not, Rob. I did not. Okay, so first of all, let me first start by saying thank you for having the opportunity to be on the RAD Show. This is awesome. So I was told that you're not a chef until your peers respect you as a chef. So not necessarily the culinary school vibe, but your peers, the people in the industry, has to respect you as a chef.
So I like that a lot better.
Yeah.
So how then did you become what is now respected Chef Q? What's your training?
I came up through the ranks of just the kitchen. I started washing dishes and worked my way up slowly, very slowly. But, I just worked my way up. I had the fortune to work under some really, really great chefs in some really nice restaurants.
What started all that? Like, did you cook as, like, I had to cook as a kid. I was a latchkey kid. Like, it was come home, and if you want to eat, you better know how to at least turn on the stove.
So I was the same way. I'm the youngest of, my mother birthed 17 kids.
What?
Yes. Yeah. let that sink in for a while.
Wow.
She birthed 17 kids. So I remember, there was a group of twins that, didn't make it. They died right after birth. But I remember growing up, it was at least 10 of us around, right? And I was the youngest. I don't like to say the baby because that makes people think differently. I was the youngest of 10. So I was that hip baby. I was on my mom's leg when she was cooking in the kitchen. And then, you picked up on little things. She would let me help her, whatever I could do, go grab a pan, lick the bowl from the cake. That was the best.
Well,
right?
yeah.
That was the best, the rewards of being in there. But then I went away. I went away to college. Then I joined the military. And, my years in the military, I was like, I never thought I was going to be a chef. I started needing a job, needing extra money. I started washing dishes. And there was this chef that I was washing dishes with. He said to me, hey, you're pretty good at this. Maybe you should think about a career.
In the Navy?
No, well, it was in the Navy. Yes, in the Navy. Okay. So I transferred my career in the Navy over to what they call culinary specialists. And they sent me to a little, training, if you will. It wasn't a culinary school by no means. And then when I got out, I started washing dishes at a permanent hotel in San Diego, right on the beach. And then I kind of kept moving my way up, asking tons of questions, just trying to be, that little pesky kid, just asking questions. And
so where in there did the bug bite you? So you went to college? You graduated college?
No, I didn't actually. I was going for criminal justice, but I never graduated. Couldn't afford. That's what started let me get a job. Let me start washing dishes. So
okay, and so that's why you went Navy.
That's why I went Navy.
And then was it in the Navy that you went, I actually like this cooking thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And so
it did start from my mom. I give my mom all credit.
But not to the point where you ever thought you would be a chef until you got rebitten in the Navy.
Never, yeah.
So you get done with the Navy. By the way, how'd you like serving the country?
I loved it. I loved it. I mean, there was some good times. There was some bad times, of course, but I loved it. I went through 2 wars and, a lot of, met a lot of people, traveled the world, which was, again, another bug because every country we went to restaurants. I would go into the restaurants, and if I liked the food, the next day I would go to the back door and knock on the door and say, hey, can I come in here and learn? Can I just follow you around your kitchen? I did that in Japan. I did that in Thailand. I did that in Singapore, just to kind of glean what those chefs or what that restaurant was doing. And I just say, you don't have to pay me. I just want to learn.
That is so fascinating. My wife, Christina, she did 12 years in the Army.
Oh, wow.
And
Thank you for your service, Christina.
And as to you as well. That is one thing that seems to be so unique or specific to a lot of you that did overseas time is the food.
Yeah.
And a lot of places, like she is enamored with some of the food she got in the Middle East, and she can only get it in the Middle East.
Yeah.
She keeps looking to find it because when you have those on the ground experiences, you get it really authentically made by them.
Yeah. So that was very intriguing to me. So when, so I was stationed in San Diego and I was on a ship and, went all over the coast and West Coast and all that stuff. So when I got back here, just wanted extra money, and I just started washing dishes at a hotel, and lo and behold, that ended up being a lot more than I had originally anticipated.
So how many restaurants have you worked at total?
Oh, you're gonna make me count.
Give or take.
Give or take 5 to 7.
And every time working your way up, and then do you get at some point named sous chef or head chef?
Yeah, of course. I've had my stints in restaurants where I was the sous chef, I was the executive chef of restaurants. I've opened up my share of restaurants. It it was never, and I'll say this with all due humbleness, it was never like I had to prove myself in every spot that I've had to go into. I would apply for executive chef. They would hire me as a sous chef. And then 2 months later, promote me. And it was like, I'm the same guy. I got the same resume. You know what I mean? I think that I just had to go in and prove myself, prove my skills, prove my ability. And, I had to, just say, hey, I can do this job. Nobody ever, took me for, I can run your company.
Did you ever get an idea of why that was?
I mean, I think I got an idea. This road has not been easy, you know what I'm saying? My counterparts in the industry have been, if we're going to be really frank and honest here.
That's the idea.
I think it was because I was a black chef, and I think it was because they didn't trust that I knew the business or could do the job. So they always hired me in, underpaid me, hired me in a position or two under what I was applying for. And then I had to just work my way up, and I was willing to do that to prove to them that I could do the job.
And is that what like, for example, in that story where 2 months later you're promoted to the job you actually applied for, is that what turned them? Is that you just went in there and said, I'm just going to work harder than everybody else? Pretty much.
And a lot of times I had to do that because I wanted the respect and I wanted to prove them that I could do the job. So, here I am applying for executive chef. I know I'm qualified for the job, but you're going to hire me for sous chef, give me, not pay me what I'm worth. And I would say, okay. And then 2 months later, you're going to fire the guy that you hired executive chef because he wasn't qualified. And then, promote me. And the only difference was the 2 months. And, I already knew the job. I knew how to run the restaurant.
So you took it sort of as I don't want to put words in your mouth, but almost like a chip on your shoulder. Like, if you're going to tell me, I'm going to show you.
Definitely, Rob. I mean, it was also, being the underdog, right? And just, not only the chip on the shoulder, I really was adamant to prove them wrong. And literally, every job I've had, that has been the way I've had to come up.
Where'd you grow up?
Florida.
So how much as you grew up, and when did you get out to the west part of the country?
89, 90.
Okay. How much as you grew up did you experience being black in America?
I'm still experiencing that.
Right. I'm trying to figure out how formed it was. So in other words, let me phrase it this way. You weren't surprised, were you, when that's how they hired you?
No, I wasn't, but I was upset.
Sure. That never goes away, does it?
Right. I wasn't surprised, but I was upset. Because I'm looking at the people that you're hiring, and I'm saying that they're not qualified. They're good people. They're just not qualified to do this job. And then, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into it, a month into it, you're telling me just be their support, just help them out, help them learn their job. Like, you hired them for a job. you're paying them for a job, but they can't do the job. So now you want me to, pick up the slack, so to speak. And then, it was just all in due time, and that, it's just going to work out. And, it did.
Now, you mentioned along the way you've owned more than Q. Is Q1227 the only one you own right now?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you decide I'm going to own a restaurant?
I think, when I really took this thing serious, when I really, found out that, if I can cook, I will always have a job because people always have to eat. And when it sunk in, it was like, okay, great. Now, how far can I take this? I think anybody that's in any career at some point should say, I want my own. And so it hit me quite early. But I didn't know the route. I didn't know how to get there. So I had to, I just put my head down and I worked. I went in and I did the 16-hour shifts, and I worked the 7 days a week, and I did all of that. But through my travels and through my experiences, I would always say to the owner or to the boss, hey, what if we try this? What if we do this? And it would, more than likely just be shunned, and they wouldn't do it, because my whole heart, my whole desire was always customer based. If we satisfy and please the customer, they're going to come back and all of this. And in any restaurant I ever worked in, that was always my concern. Well, it's not about what I like, it's about what the guests like.
But did you see that it wasn't always the other people working the restaurant's concern? The owners?
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. It was all about, a lot of them was all about the money, all about, the dollars, turn the table, get them in, get them out. And that's just wasn't my vibe. I didn't like rushing people. When I go out to eat dinner with my wife, I don't like to be rushed. Allow me to just sit here and course my meal out. Just let me relax. And, so other restaurants, it really was all about the table. That seat holds a certain dollar value. And if we can get this person in and get another person in and get another person in, we've just what we call flipped that table. We just flipped that table 3 times, and we just made 3 times, so it wasn't about that.
It's a formula.
It is. It really was a formula for every restaurant. And for me, it was like, hey guys, if we just take our time, and instead of that guest coming in, having an entree and 1 glass of wine, if we wined and dined them, they will have a couple courses and a bottle of wine. And we've just done the same thing, but also built a relationship with the guests. And now they're going to come back and celebrate every holiday, every anniversary, everything with us.
So, first of all, I'm assuming you're not opposed to making money.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I actually had a friend, a regular at Q1227. I told her that we were going to be talking, and she actually had, because one of the things we've found is that's like a community that you've created there. And a lot of the customers that we've seen them before, and they recognize us. And one of the things somebody said was, ask them what it's like to see the same faces coming in over and over again, and what it's like to feel that. Because you really do seem to have a bunch of us that are like, we got to go see Q.
Well, it's great, to be honest with you, because you guys are all extended family members. That's the way I look at it. I'm just throwing a dinner party, and that restaurant is my living room, and you guys are coming in tonight.
And you always come out. I know you always make time to work the tables.
It's important to me to talk to the guests hand on hand, and because I want to know, was your experience what you was expecting?
And you really want to know.
I really want to know.
A lot of people are afraid to answer that question. Like, well, actually, this didn't hit the mark for me.
And I need to know that if it didn't, because there's no improvement without constructive criticism.
Are you still at this point, and we're going to get back to where Q started and all that in a second, but are you right now, you're about, what, 1.5 years open, if I'm doing my math right? Are you still cooking in the kitchen, cooking everything?
Yes.
Now you got people helping you.
Yes, of course. I got a great crew. They're doing an awesome job. But yes, I'm in there every day. I'm the first one to be in the kitchen. I'm the first one to turn the stoves on. I'm the first one to turn the lights on. I'm there.
What's the average day? What time you get in?
8:30
a.m. And you leave at
11:30 midnight.
I did notice when we started going that you're 5 days a week.
Yes.
Which a lot of restaurants, they've got to be open 7 days a week.
Right.
You're dinner only.
Right.
And at least a couple times a year, I've noticed, you just shut down and let everybody go on vacation.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's called the quality of life for us. And I didn't have that in my earlier career because obviously I couldn't make those decisions for other restaurant owners. But before we opened this, I said to my wife, I said, I've been bit by the bug, and I've worked the 16-hour days, of course, but it was all for another man's vision. And when we were embarking on this, I said, honey, you're going to have to help me sustain a quality of life, because my kids are growing up, and, and I love my family. I love spending time with them. But if I'm at the restaurant 24/7, there will be no time. So that's why, again, it's not about the turning the tables. It's really, 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 and if more restaurant owners could understand this, and I don't have this perfect formula, don't get me wrong, but if they could understand it's about relationships, and I'm not chasing a dollar, but Rob, the money is there, and it's not us chasing it. If I showed you my business plan compared to where we are now, you would really think I didn't know what I was writing because it just doesn't make sense. I wrote my business plan for 6 days a week, lunch and dinner, and my bottom line, I'm already 25 to 30% over that now.
Wow.
And I'm, like you said, I'm closed Sunday, Mondays, and we dinners only. So I think that we're definitely doing a great job. We have a great crew. They bought into our concept, and we have this motto. It's called RICH. It's respect, integrity, commitment, and hospitality. And everyone we hire in, we say, this is our motto. I'm going to tell you what it means to me. You tell me what it means to you. And if you can embody this, then you'll be a great asset for our team. And all of the employees, Rob, I tell them when we hire them, you don't work for me, you work with me. We're side by side, and it's my vision, but you have a part to play in this vision. And if, you have 3 tables, that becomes your little business tonight, those tables. And I want you to treat them like they're your family members, treat them like they're your friends, etc. The dish pit, everybody. I want them to feel take charge and feel the responsibility.
One of the things we noticed right away from the very first time we went in was you do have an incredible staff.
Thank you.
And they do have a great attitude, and you seem to have created exactly what you're going for there. But as a business owner, I know that hiring and firing is sometimes the hardest part of the job. Are you literally doing all of that yourself?
With my wife, because my wife is also the general manager. So she hadn't had any restaurant experience. So again, when we was doing the hiring, and I was interviewing general managers, and after one general manager, we interviewed, and I looked over at her and I said, why am I looking for someone to build our dream when you can build it? She kind of looked at me and she goes, but I don't know the restaurant. Give me a year, I'll teach you the restaurant. I can't be front and back, but if I had you as an extension, we can make this work. And she took it on. She took the bull by the horn, so to speak, and she's really done an awesome job. And since she didn't come from a corporate restaurant, she don't know the game of restaurant, she's done what comes best to her heart. She's treated people like with love and kindness, and that works.
That first night we were there, we met her, and she was happy to talk to us about, I think that night you had family working there. I think you have family working off and on all the time, right?
Yeah, my son works there, and every once in a while I get one of my daughters to come in. But our social media manager, she's like my goddaughter, so I mean, everybody is like family, really, it really is.
Is your son cooking?
No, he likes the in the front of the house. We trying to. He's a server assistant right now. We're trying to get him to become a server.
like trying to get him to do it, or
yeah. Well, he was very comfortable with just server assistants. He didn't want to, venture out. But since he moved out on his own and bought his own car and he's trying to grow up. So he's looking at it. He's thinking about it.
So is he up there at the podium and then he's seating people?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because I'm trying to figure out who he is now. Because I haven't met your son.
Yeah, you've met him.
I just don't know.
You met him. He's running around there. He's helped busting tables and things like that.
Outstanding. So you've mentioned your wife quite a few times. And she is a light. I mean, she's a natural. I can see that you saw in her, you can do this. We'll just worry about the restaurant stuff on the side. And her name's Tamara, and she has quite the following herself.
Yes.
I mean, she's actually been in the limelight, I think, a lot more than you have.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
She's a pastor.
Yes.
And how'd you meet her, by the way?
So she was, I was working at this restaurant, Rob, downtown Sacramento, and she came in and to have dinner, and I said hello to her like I do tables, and she kept coming back, and I told her she kept stalking me.
So she's like a Chef Q groupie.
Yeah. Let's call it that. Can we label that?
She'll love that.
She'll love that. Yeah.
And she just kept coming back.
Yeah, she just kept coming back. Then she started bringing family and friends and all that stuff. And we got to know each other very well from her dining at the restaurant. And then one of those days, I don't know, I just she came in and with a friend, and the friend went to the bathroom, and I just really walked over to her, Rob, and I really went out on a limb here. I said, "Hey, you might not believe this, but you're my wife."
This is your line.
That was my line.
Wow.
It really was my line, Rob, and it worked. She laughed, though. Let me tell you, it wasn't easy. She laughed, and about a year and a half later, I was able to take her out on our first date. And,
what?
Yeah.
It took a year and a half from telling her that you were
dude,
like,
you don't even know.
So she made you work for it.
Oh, yeah. I worked.
How long ago was that?
18 years now.
Wow.
18 years, yeah.
So okay, let's go to Q1227 specifically right now. How do you describe the food you serve?
Modern comfort food. I grew up in the South, and a lot of my recipes, if not all of my recipes, are really inspired by my Southern upbringing. But I've never cooked in Florida. My entire cooking career has been in California. So I like to say that I've taken those recipes, and then I've taken our farm to fork industry here in California, and I combined the two. And I just want it to be modern comfort food. I, trying our best to make those Southern recipes Californianized with the fresh ingredients that we have here locally in California.
The thing about some of your cooking that just blows me away, and I was telling Tamara a couple of visits ago that you're starting to make me angry now and then, because I'm a really good cook, but this pork chop that you're cooking now, I cannot make a pork chop that good, which is why I got it like 3 times in a row, because I'm like, it was an accident. He's never going to make it that good. But the depth of your cooking, you've got another pork dish, the ossobuco, which the flavors in there, they're just extraordinary. And where is this all just, where do the ideas come from?
I don't know, Rob. I'm just bottled up with ideas. Like, they're really techniques. And then you can if you learn this technique and you can interchange the ingredients, some work, some doesn't. So I'm not afraid to take chances. With a lot of our dishes, I just feel like, well, if I take this technique, add this ingredient and do this, let's see if it works. And I just go for it. And
is that when you're doing like specials? Like sometimes is that an experiment when you're doing those?
Yeah, I always do them, behind the door first. I always do them before I present them to the guests, and I'll let kitchen staff or restaurant staff taste them, and they'll give me their feedback. I'll let my wife taste them. I'll let Tracy taste them, and then they'll give me feedback, and then I'll tweak a thing or two, and then I'll put it out for a special for the restaurant. Do
you have a favorite dish on your menu at Q1227?
I like all the dishes, and I'm not saying that to be I do. I like them all. I think that all of them have a place. I think if you as a restaurateur, you go to a restaurant, the chef is telling a story with his menu. And I think if you allow yourself to take that journey on that restaurant from that chef, you could understand a lot about their career, his or her career. The okra, for instance. My mom cooked okra all the time in the South. And it was all slimy and just, Nobody liked it. No, none of my brothers, none of us liked it, but she was forced us to eat it. So I wanted to bring an homage into my mom, but when I was in Japan, one of those restaurants that I knocked on the back door, he taught me how to make this Szechuan sauce. Now, I've never had the two together until that day I tried it for the first time. And I was like, okay, I want to pay homage to my mom. So I'm going to bring this okra back, but we can't make it slimy. So I'm going to, bread it and do all this stuff. And then I'm going to toss it with the Szechuan, pay homage to my travels in Japan. And we tried it for the first time. It was like, wow, this is crazy. This is really good. And there you go. I mean, really, it really was just, really East meets West or South meets West at this point, right? But it really was an experiment two my travels and my childhood coming together.
So what's the story behind this enormous big boy ribeye thing, which I still haven't had yet because I got to bring more friends to be able to eat this thing?
Rob, it's good meat, and it's just, man, it's just nice and tender.
It's just a pile of meat.
42 ounces, and hey, we got to put your big boy pants on for that one. But the whole idea was just meat and potatoes.
And then you do. I've had the lamb, which was extraordinary. That was another big present. My wife and I split it.
Yep.
And do you do beef Wellington as a big dish?
I do. So those dishes are under our family and friends feast, right? So the ideal is just that, sharing. And there's nothing like the dinner table to bring people together. And so we created this avenue on our dishes to say family and friends feast. So you can invite a whole bunch of people in and get this, and it sits in the middle of the table, and it's shareable. And that was the whole ideal on it. So we have the lamb, we have the big boy 42-ounce tomahawk steak, we have the seafood platter, and then we just added the beef Wellington. You know, it's 2.5 pounds of tenderloin beef wrapped puff pastry and duck style, and just goodness.
What are you doing to the desserts too, or do you have a pastry chef?
I'm doing the desserts.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's rare, isn't it? That the chef's doing everything from beginning to end.
Yeah, and I don't call myself a pastry chef, but I do know enough to get by. I do have one dessert that I do order in from a friend of mine who's a baker in the Bay Area. So I order that from him, and he brings that in. Just one of the lemon bundt cake. He does that. He's a very good chef or a pastry chef, and he's getting his foot into restaurants. So every restaurant that I've ever been in, I've brought one of his desserts, if not a couple, into the restaurant.
That bread pudding you make is amazing.
That's my mom's.
Actually, the problem is, like you were saying, you're right. It does sound like, I'm not going to pick a hole here, but everything on your menu has been extraordinary that we've tried. And it's always the same high quality. I can't imagine ever having to say to you, you missed with this one, because I just don't know how you would.
Well, we're trying. I mean, it really is trial and error, but we have fun. I don't, again, I tell aspiring cooks and chefs that, hey guys, if you can read, you can cook, because a recipe is just a list of instructions. So if you can read, you really can, do this dish. I'll write the recipes, and I just need you to get all your mise en place together. I'll come over, I'll check your mise, and when I see your mise is properly done, I'll let you go to step number 2, and then I'll check. And then once we've completed that dish for the first time, the next time you do it on your own. And then I'll check the quality, I'll check the taste, and we move on from there. Because there's no way I could do all of that myself every day, and, I have to train and teach those around me.
That's funny that you mentioned that. We've actually many times on the air I've had to explain to people the difference between mise en place, everything in its place, and mirepoix.
Yeah, right. I don't know how you do that one.
Like food I'm like, what? Yeah. Okay, that's all well and good, but the other really fascinating thing that I have no idea what the answer is about your story is you opened Q about 6 to 10 weeks before the pandemic hit.
Right.
And here you are, place is always packed. Right. You're very popular, busy. How that's something more than I can read. I mean, a lot of us in business had to pivot in big ways when the pandemic hit, especially the restaurant industry. Yeah. You had just started. Yeah. When you look back, is there something specific that you said, this is how we're going to do it, that worked? Was it luck? Was it how did you get through it?
Well, everything we did was intentional. 25 years in the game, and I've opened my share of restaurants. Again, we opened on December 27th, 2019.
You not only named the restaurant after your birthday, you opened on your birthday.
I opened on my birthday. And it was intentional, Rob, because I know from the industry that around Christmas time, restaurants are typically slow. So I thought that was going to be a good time for us to get our camel legs underneath us. We can make our mistakes in quiet. We can, kind of get this thing right when we won't have a lot of eyes on us. We open up dinners only. And of course, yes, the pandemic hit. But we pivot to do family meals. Whenever we couldn't seat inside, we did family meals. So I reduced my menu, kind of changed my menu, because I didn't want to close because we were so new. And then we did this thing where we fed the frontliners. We took food to the hospitals, fed the nurses. We did all of that because we wanted to say thank you. And Tracy, she blew up social media and just kind of got our names out and what we were doing, and it was great. And then
that's how we found you guys. Social
media.
Yep.
Yeah, she really did a great job, but everything was intentional. We didn't want to do too much too soon. We hired a right amount of staff, and then when it was time to open patio only, we did that, but we did it intentional. And then our menu grew. Again, I didn't want to do anything too fast, too soon. And the community just came out to support us. I do think there was a perfect storm. I think that people was quarantined. People were, wanting to come out, wanting to spend money. But I also think that there was this movement called the BLM movement, where people wanted to support Black-owned businesses. And I think that was a perfect storm for us because we were Black-owned. We had great social media presence, and people wanted to support Black businesses at the time. And we were there, and we presented ourselves well. And then when they came in, it was consistent and it was good and it was all this, because I don't care how well you are on social media. If they come in and the food is not good, if the ambiance is not good, then they're not coming back. And then we treated everybody with love and all that stuff. So
did you see, unfortunately, it's a terrible correlation to make, but did you see a noticeable impact after the George Floyd incident and as things really took hold with the racial inequality discussions?
I did. I saw a lot of, support coming from predominantly Black areas of town. It was really, really great. But I also remember, Rob, that I had to make a stand. I had to call our staff in, and we had to talk to our staff about they were being disrespected. Because some of our guests was coming in, and because it is a Black-owned establishment. And I remember, interview I did, and I was really adamant. I said, I don't want to be known as a Black-owned restaurant. I want to be known as a restaurant with good food. Just so happens to be Black-owned. Don't identify me as a Black-owned restaurant first. I want to be known as a good restaurant, and just so happen to be Black-owned. And so I took that stand, and our guest was coming in, and it was, just, we say wilding out. It was just doing their thing. So I put our staff in because they was getting disrespected. They wasn't getting properly taken care of tip wise, and and all of this stuff. And I said to them, and I had the conversation that it's not about the money for me. If our motto, rich motto, goes both ways, and if our guests can't respect you, I don't need them in here. And I remember talking to a few of our tables, our guests, and then say, man, I appreciate your support, but if you're gonna act like this, I don't need it.
What were they doing? In an example.
In an example, they were taking chairs from other tables. They party size increased, didn't say anything. And I even had guests, Rob, because we were beer and wine only, I've had guests bring in alcohol to consume at a table. And I had to go out to them and says, no, not here. You can't do that.
Isn't there a law against that for starters?
Exactly, right?
Not to mention how rude it is to you as the business owner.
Right. And I literally had to say that. And so you call yourself supporting Black-owned businesses, but this is what you do. That's not support, because I can get closed down.
Incidentally, do you have plans to open a full bar at some point?
It may be in the works. Again, intentionally done. We open beer and wine because I wanted to be food focused first. And
it does bring in another element, doesn't it?
It does.
If you have a full bar.
It does. And me knowing that, with then I gotta worry about the inventory of it. I gotta worry about the theft of it. I gotta worry about all that other stuff. And right now, I just wanted to get this baby up and running, food focused first, and then we could increase down the line. So
you open this restaurant that happens to be owned by a Black man in, the last time I checked, a city that's 98% white people.
Right.
And I know you said from certain parts of the community, people, we have friends come from Elk Grove almost every week to eat at your restaurant. Any issues with, or what was the plan? You seem to have everything planned. So what was the thinking there?
The thinking was, first of all, I've looked at spaces all over the Sacramento region. this place made the perfect sense because of the size. I like to say we're on Restaurant Row. There's a whole lot of great restaurants around us, and the community income was where I needed to be. And all of that with the fact that the building was vacant and ready to move in.
That was helpful.
that was major. But all of that, and it helped me write my menu. We visited all the restaurants around. I looked at their menu, and of course I'm not going to mimic what they do, but I can fill in the gap. And that's what I think I did. I came out, I noticed, because a lot of times we, especially as black chefs, we get labeled with a label. We're a soul food chef. We're a barbecue chef. Well, what happens if that building that you want to open up is next to another barbecue restaurant, but you call yourself a barbecue chef?
Right.
I'm a chef. I'm not a soul food chef. I'm not a barbecue chef. I'm a chef. So I can do all types of food. So we found the building and kind of did our analytics of what was around us and said, hey, if we open this restaurant, this is what I want it to be because nobody's doing this out here. And let's see if it works.
So is that where things like meatloaf get on the menu?
Right.
That your southern fried chicken is extraordinary. And then, like we talked about, you had lobster thermidor as a special a couple weeks ago.
I did.
Which is amazing.
I did.
So did you feel welcome from the time you opened up?
I did. Seriously, like I can't even imagine. The support from the community has been amazing. But what's funny, the community, it's not just the 3 to 5 mile radius of the restaurant. We've expanded that, and people coming from, like you said, Elk Grove, Sacramento, the Bay Area, Modesto. We've had people drive in from Stockton, Modesto, just to eat there. I mean, it's really overwhelming. It really is. It's an humbling experience. I'm really grateful. I'm beyond blown away because I'll tell guests, you drove past 500 restaurants, 1,000 restaurants just to get here to have fried chicken. I'm really humbled. Like, what do you want me to do with that? So my job, our kitchen job, our restaurant job is to make sure that we present this the best possible way every time. There's no chance. I mean, we can't afford to slack because if someone driving from Elk Grove or Stockton, they deserve to have the best experience possible. So that's our whole mind frame.
So you're in that, you're right, Restaurant Row, you're surrounded by some really great fun places. But you are kind of landlocked there. If you you ain't expanding unless somebody goes out of business next door to you, but would there be a second Q in the making someday? And or serving lunch?
I wouldn't put that past us to have a second location or a bigger location. Our biggest problem at the moment right now is that we just don't have enough seat to accommodate all the guests that wants to come in. But
is that post-pandemic? Are you back to capacity or? No,
we're not back to 100%. I mean, here's what I mean. Pre-pandemic, we took tables out. We have not brought any tables back in yet. So, because I didn't want to have an empty table and have a guest say, well, why can't I sit there? Well, because COVID, we can't, we have to, so we just took tables out.
Right.
But no, we haven't moved tables back in. So, I don't know, Rob, it's crazy because like we don't really have room to expand, but if a bigger building come available in a near area or if there's chance for another location somewhere, I would be open to that. Now that I'm 1.5 years in, I told my wife from the beginning, I said, well, we can't think about doing anything until 2 years in. And that was my whole plan. And I literally said to her, like, the first year, expect this. The second year, then we can start looking at this. So we're on pace. We're really above pace to do that now. And it's funny, when we opened up, we couldn't get nobody interested in doing anything with us. It's just my wife and I. And now that we seem to have this formula that people want to, help us out. So it's really interesting.
No, when I approached Tamara a couple weeks ago about you coming on the show, my biggest concern was that you would be like, I'm too busy. I would love to do it, but I'm too busy because it is exactly what you said. There's nothing in this for me other than I love exposing great people, great business owners to the community, and it is such a great vibe. But that was my concern, was because Q's like, come on, another one. I'm doing the best I can here.
Well, again, it's intentional, man. You guys are not only great people. You guys, you're frequent the restaurant, and we said we'll do whatever we have to take to make this happen. So I appreciate the offer.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. What so now that you're a year and a half in, you're ahead of schedule, as you said. Going back to the COVID thing, when you were implementing that plan, there were a couple months that was scary for all of us.
Yes.
What are you presenting to your staff? Are you presenting nothing but iron steel confidence? I'm going to get us through this. Are you lying to them, or how are you getting them through it?
I was very honest, and we said to them, we're not closing. Now, we may have to modify hours, we may have to do X, Y, Z, but we're not closing. And I'm looking at my wife, and I'm saying, I'm not going to wait 25 plus years to get my own spot and then allow a pandemic to close my doors in the first 3 months. My faith is beyond that. All of this happened like this to close down in a month and a half. I couldn't believe it. So we had to fight through it. I mean, when we got the keys, the miracle behind that we had not signed a contract. We had not did anything. When the landlord, I visited the building. I asked to visit the building. My wife was with me. My kids were with me. Tracy was there. And we visited the building. And as they're looking at the building, I'm just walking around, Rob, and I'm looking like, I can do this. And that was all I felt, like, I can do this. This is doable. And he told me how much the rent was, and I checked my savings real quick, and I was like, okay, so if no customers come in for the first 3 months, so I was like really doing the math and saying how far in advance can I afford this, and I looked at my wife and I said, I can do this, but I need you with me. And she go, well, let's do it. And that was it. When that man left, he gave me the keys without signing a contract, without doing anything. And I actually got the keys October the 12th. So again, intentionally, I chose not to open until December. October the 12th until December the 27th, we just opened to private parties. Because I used to do a lot of catering and stuff, so we just started sending out notices that we would do private events, all that stuff. So we did that for the first, few months. Because again, holiday season coming up, people are going to need somewhere to do Christmas parties. All that was intentional. And it really worked. Then the pandemic hit and all that, but I was really, really confident that, we're going to ride this thing out. We're going to modify our menu. I had a meeting right during the beginning of the pandemic with a whole bunch of chefs because we was trying to figure out how we was going to maneuver this. And when I tell you that the struggle was, my food don't look good in a box. And it was really heart crunching to us because, we presented a certain way for a certain reason. And for a lot of the chefs that I know, they couldn't maneuver to put their food in a box. So they chose to close or, whatever. And I was like, I can't afford to close because I just opened. So I chose to remodify my menu. What will travel well? What will people order? And then let's bulk it up because parents are home with kids all day. They doing homework. They doing this whole thing. Now they got to cook. Nah, let's just take that out of the equation for them. Come and get this family feast. Come and get this fried chicken. Come and get this. We're going to package all up for you, and we're going to make it affordable. And that's what we did. And
through all of that, you've mentioned your faith a few times. I'm pretty sure that's one of the driving things in your life.
Yeah.
And that gets you through. How big of a role does that play in your life?
Faith, family, food.
In that order?
In that order.
Talk to God every day?
Every day.
Multiple times, I'm guessing.
Yeah. When I walk in the restaurant, I'm the only one there. First thing I do is I pray. Every day.
Has he always been a part of your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll say now. I've not always listened.
Sure. We all walk away now and then, right?
But yes, growing up as a child, my mom would take me to church all the time. And then there was that point in life when when I grew up and you thought that you knew and whatever, and you go astray. But actually, when I met my wife, because she's a pastor, she kind of reeled me back into the faith and helped me stay on the path. So I'm very fortunate for that.
So when you're at home, what do you eat? I get this image of you propping your feet. See, I think people think that you're cooking your same meals at home all the time, whereas I get the image of you propping your feet up and having like a cheese sandwich or something that people would never guess you'd eat.
Rob, it's whatever strikes me. Like seriously, the other day I just grilled lobster tails. We just go at it. I mean, we have this thing every Sunday that there's about 20 to 30 people that come over to our home, and we call it Fat Sunday. And I just go crazy.
Even when you're not working, you're entertaining and cooking.
Oh yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, it's fun though. It's fun. It's not when I'm cooking. The ultimate prize is to see the people that are eating the food happy. Like that's the ultimate prize, to see, whether it's at the restaurant, at home, or wherever. Like I can be doing a cookout somewhere, campground. If you like that hot dog, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's
do you do that at the restaurant? Because you got the open air kitchen, you can look right out, you can make eye contact.
Yeah.
Do you ever make sure you're watching somebody the first bite they take?
I do, and it's a lot of times it's overwhelming because the first thing that people do when the food hits the table, most of them take out their phones.
Yep.
Right? They take a picture, and then that first bite, when they close their eyes, we call that ratatouille moment. When they have that ratatouille moment, we was like, yeah. That's what we're looking for. And then they'll stare at you like, boy, you don't put your foot in this. So it's really humbling, man, because I keep expecting someone to say, this was horrible, I didn't like this. I keep expecting that. I read a book a long time ago about Julius Erving, and he said that every day he has to go out and perform because there's someone trying to take his job, so he can't afford to take a day off. So I tell that to the crew, we can't afford to take a day off, and we're only as good as our last plate, Rob. So every plate that we put out has to be on point, I have this crazy concept that I call my pyramid concept, and it's nowhere else, and it's kind of just, I derived it from my 25 plus years in the industry, and I got a perfect triangle here, not an obtuse triangle, not an oblong triangle. It's a perfect triangle, and it's 90-degree angles, and it's food, ambiance, and it's service. And I tell the staff, if we can get that perfect 90-degree angle on all three of those points every time, we're successful. And it can't be food was great, service was ambiance was okay. Well, that's not a perfect triangle. And we've gone out. We've been to restaurants where we'll say one of them was on point and the other two were there, and you don't really feel like going back there. You may go back for the food, or you may go back for the service, but if we can hit all three, it's a win-win. And that's what we strive to do every single day, is to hit them perfect points, 90-degree angles all the way around. And that's just, it's my concept. That's kind of something that over the years that I've said, why does this restaurant work? This one doesn't. Why does this one get great reviews? This one doesn't. And just over the years, I just said, okay, it has to be this. The perfect concept is 90-degree angles, that pyramid. And if we can hit all three.
You should probably patent that idea. You can get your own, TV cooking show someday.
Working on it, Rob.
With your triangle. Well, I was going to ask you, do you have any, are there any big name chefs that everybody knows, celebrity chefs that everybody knows that you're like, watch that person?
Well, I tell you what, I admire Chef Danielle Bluter from New York from afar.
Have you eaten at Danielle?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I know that sounds very pompous to some people, but it's like a once in a lifetime thing for some of us, and it was incredible.
It's absolutely amazing. I actually met him one of those nights I was in New York. We went to his restaurant, and apparently when I got up and go to the restaurant, my wife told the concierge that I was a chef, and Danielle just happened to be in the building. He came out, signed a book for me. We took a picture together, and he's just humble. He's a great guy. He from afar, of course, he's a classic French chef. But, if you know anything about the culinary arts, French cooking is like the mother cooking. So you have to be able to glean or learn from their style of cooking and then add on what other styles that you may like. So I do admire him. I've been to, Danielle's a couple times and then to some of his side restaurants a few times. And of course you got Charlie Charter, you got the French Laundry, you got places like Per Se, you got places like that. That's just absolutely amazing what they can do with fresh ingredients and food and all of that.
I thought that they took that. I thought Per Se was so much grander than French Laundry.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had that same experience.
Yeah.
French Laundry is what it is, but Per Se, not just the gorgeous view and everything, but I mean just the food, the presentation. It seemed like they had really taken it to another level.
I think it's because it's New York.
Maybe.
It's New York. And then, I think in Yonkville it's a little bit more, down to earth, kind of people over there. But both are amazing though in their own right. You know, and if you don't like, if you can't afford, if you will, French Laundry, then you got Ad Hoc. You got
Ad Hoc's so good.
You got that right down the street. So
these are your Napa recommendations, folks. I mean, they're always calling and asking. I try to remember a few of them, and Ad Hoc's always one of them.
Ad Hoc's great. I mean, I just loved it. But it's when my wife and I travel. We'll go to great restaurants, and that's what we do. I'm gleaming. I'm learning from the food, the presentation. How and why did they blend these two together, and she's looking at service and all of that, and then it's just, and then when we come back, when we were able to open Q1227, it was just a conglomerate of all of that too. It just worked. But
it's not work when you're out there doing it. You're still traveling and having fun because you're so passionate about the restaurant, the food, and everything else. Yeah. So when you're not restauranting, when you're not fooding, what do? You have fun? Like I know you have fun. I don't mean that way. Like, what do you do for fun? You like sports?
I love basketball. Basketball's probably my favorite sport. So we love going to games. I mean, last couple of years going to Keen's game hasn't been really great.
Yeah,
but, we were season ticket holders. But when we open the restaurant, again, it's time now to build. So we just take that in consideration when we take those weeks off at a time from the restaurant. We go, the family, we'll get away, we'll go rent a house in LA or in the mountains somewhere and just have family time. Family is great for me. It's building a legacy for me. It's leaving something for my family because as a black man, I didn't have that. I didn't have, no one speaking wealth into my life. So I find it very important for me to turn around and speak wealth into those around me. Not only my kids, but those that are close to me in my close circle. I think it's important.
Thank you so much for doing this, Q.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. It's so nice to get to know you this way. Love your restaurant, love your family, and just want to encourage everybody to try it, follow you on social media. You're active there. Your restaurant is, and all the best to you in the future.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the opportunity.
The RAD pROBcast. Did you enjoy this episode of the RAD pROBcast? Send an email to rad@radradio.com. A new episode of the pROBcast premieres anytime Rob feels like doing one.